Hello, Internet! I'm Elliot the Purple-Haired Doofus, and welcome to Buddy Reads, and I forgot to turn on my lights, and I'm just a stupid idiot. Take 50! Hello, Internet! I'm Elliot the Purple-Haired Doofus, and welcome to Buddy Reads, where I read a small selection of a book and review it for you. Today we are beginning our journey into Wolves of the Calla by Stephen King. We are covering the argument, the prologue, which is called Roont, and the first two chapters of the story, Todash. I hope you've read that far yourself, because I do not want to ruin anything for you. This may sound like a lot, but the first chapter, or the first story, is only 35 pages. I was going to stop after the first chapter of the first story, but after that initial story, it just picks up so easily that I could not put it down yet. After that first story, after the initial Roont, and you go into the second story, and I'm like, this is such a fast, amazing read! Thank you! This is what I want from Stephen King! So basically, the first story, called Roont, is written in the high speak, so you know how much I love that, right? And it's about these people who are about to be attacked, I guess, by what they call wolves. They don't exactly describe them as wolves, like animals coming to them. They sound more like people who are coming to take their children away. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself though, because it starts off in this farm, and you have this farmer, and he's using a girl to plow the fields, and you find that this girl is not a normal girl. She is a mutant. She is like 7 feet tall and bulky and it kind of slyly introduces the idea of mutants that were transformed due to the wolves. And this robot comes, and this robot is kind of like Marvin, the paranoid, depressed android from Hitchhiker's Guide, because it has a personality. And rather than what it's programmed to do, it loves to give, It loves to give horoscopes. Wow, I can't even say that word right. I find them so ridiculous, I can't even say the word right. Anyways, it loves to give future tellings, and it goes to the farmer and it says that the wolves are coming. And the farmer's like, oh no, we have to worry about this. So they hold a town meeting, and everyone is there, and they're talking about the wolves coming, and they talk about how these wolves will take away their children of a certain age, because he makes allusions that these kids were too young, but these kids were too old. While these guys are having a discussion of what they should do, they're coming up with ideas like, maybe we should just kill the children, maybe we should just run away. And there's this guy named Callahan. And all the way up until this point, all of the dialogue has been in the high speak, and it has been so annoying for me. And I just could not wait for it to stop. And then the guy Callahan shows up, and he starts talking normally. Thank God! While he's talking, he's saying, we should fight back against these wolves. And all the guys are like, but we have nothing to fight back with. And he says, I know 3 gunslingers that can come to our town and help us. And he is obviously talking about Roland, Eddie, and Susanna. The men agree to have these 3 gunslingers come into their town and help with the wolves. Then we move on to the story of our favorite people. And in the argument, the recap, it gave them a name. The Pilgrims. Thank God. I was calling it our crew, I was calling them the gunslingers, I was calling them this and that. And I was just waiting for a name for them, and now I have one. But once we get into their story, the book picks up a lot faster. Our 3 heroes walking along with Jake and Oi, they're walking along, and it kind of breaks the fourth wall a bit, and I found that kind of amazing. Stephen King actually makes reference to how time kind of stopped for them until this point in the book, and then it started picking up again. And that's kind of brilliant, because that's exactly what happens with characters in series. It's like time doesn't seem to affect them at all between books because nothing happens. And there's even a line like Eddie's like, well, time's starting to move again. And everyone's just kind of like, yep, that's awesome. They're sitting around eating, and Jake brings these, I think they're called muffin balls, to the group, and they're edible, and they're sweet. And Roland says, yeah, they're great, but you should know that they cause people to have very vivid dreams. And they're like, oh no. And then they go to sleep that night, and Jake and Eddie and Oi wake up in New York City, in their New York City. Well, kind of their New York City, because everything is happening as it once was in 1977 when Jake left New York City. They're actually following Jake from 1977. Stephen King has to differentiate between the two. There's Jake, and then there's 77 Kid. Also, while they are walking around and time is starting to move for these characters, they make reference to the number 19. Stephen King says something about how that was a magic number that had popped up during the whole Blaine incident, and I don't remember that. I don't remember that whole mystery thing having to do with the number 19. And it's kind of like an in-joke with the Pilgrims. They make reference to it all of the time. How many sticks should we pick up for the fire? 19. Ha 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 ha. You're so funny. That sort of thing. We move on, and Jake and Eddie wake up in 1997 New York. But also, it's 1977 New York, but it also isn't. It's perfect, but it's also wrong. This is how Stephen King explains 1977. But it's so easy to read this part, because everyone's speaking English, and I know everything in this area, and it's just like, yes, this is what I want. Please give me more. So they're following 1977 Jake. It's the day that he goes to Midworld, so he knows exactly where everyone is going. And Jake and Eddie actually have the conversation about the rose that Jake had found in the abandoned lot. And they're like, oh, we should go see that. And he's like, yeah, but I really kind of want to follow this little kid Jake. And they're like, oh, yeah, let's do that. And so they follow little kid Jake to the bookstore where Calvin Tower was and sold him Charlie the Choo Choo Train and the riddle book with the answers torn out the back. They get there and they watch the interaction between Jake, or 1977 Jake, and Calvin Tower, and they realize that things aren't right. Like the author in Charlie the Choo Choo is different. Stephen King even alludes to himself in this scene when there is a list of authors or a list of books that are available to be purchased. He lists himself as one of the authors. And it's just kind of like, this book is breaking the fourth wall, and that is awesome. They watch the interaction with 1977 Jake, and as 77 Kid is leaving, Eddie stops Midworld Jake and grabs onto his shoulder and squeezes really hard because there's a car outside of the bookstore. And out from the car steps the mobsters from book 2 that he and Roland had infiltrated, killed in a massive shootout. The mobster goes into the bookstore and they're talking with Calvin Tower, and Calvin Tower has to sign a piece of paper. And this piece of paper is for a vacant lot. And I'm pretty sure that this vacant lot is where the rose is growing. The rose that everyone is supposed to keep safe. So that's a fun thing. Jake and Eddie just realize that as darkness is kind of swirling around them, and I believe they are waking up from their incredibly vivid dream. Okay, so far, the beginning of this book, that first story was it's hard to get through. But everything after that first part is great. I love that. I remember at the end of book 4, I was reading the author's note, and Stephen King said that he has 3 more books in him based on the Dark Tower series, and he said that one of them was going to be taking place in New York, and the other 2 would be taking place in Midworld. Part of me was kind of hoping that the New York one would be the penultimate one. Again, I was a very silly person. Why would that work that way? Plus, now this is the longer of the 3 books, I think. I'm not sure how long the last one is, but I know the next one is like half the length of this one. So if this is the one that takes place in New York, that's awesome because it means I have more time in that world and more time with this writing style that I can just breeze through. Speaking of breezing through, because of this length, I was considering making this one 3 weeks long, but if I read the next section and it turns out that I can breeze through it quickly, I might make this series 2 weeks long with an extra day, and that day would be today. If it is 3 weeks long, I will try and get some extra days in the weekends so that it's more like 2 weeks just with weekend fillers. Just because I really want to be done with this series. If you enjoy what I'm doing, go ahead and hit the like button or the subscribe button with the little bell thingy next to it so that you know when I'm putting out new videos, especially special ones like today. And leave me a comment letting me know that you liked it, or that I got something wrong, or that I got something right, or that you hate me, or that you don't like me, or that you love me, or that you just really want to see more of me. Thanks. And I will do whatever I can to reply to you as best I can. I've been Elliot the Purple Hair Doofus. This has been Buddy Reads, reminding you to watch the Pajama Radius. And I will see you all in the next section of Wolves of the Calla by Stephen King. Toodles!